Welcome once again to American Christian or Christian American. I'm Sean Legacy and I'm your host. If you'd hit that subscribe button, it helps the channel to grow and also it allows you to get the videos easier. And if you like the video, please push the like button. It also helps the algorithm on YouTube in order to spread it out. Well, we looked at the title and you saw hopefully you looked at the image where it was a policeman asking a little girl, "What do you hope to be when you grow up?" And her response was, "Alive." That's really a sobering thought. Many children dream of what the possible can be, and they might even change their minds, 10, 20, 30 times sometimes. Some don't really know. But for this little girl to say, "alive," why would you say that? It's because when you're part of an oppressed group of people, when you're part of a group of people who have ongoing murders that have happened in the community and lynchings that have happened in the community, all kinds of violence that has happened that has really been created by white America, you have to wonder whether or not you have a future. Now, we're going to tie some different videos together for different parts of this subject. But the first one is dealing with just that. A 14-year-old boy who was, they say, executed, I say murdered, because he was wrongly blamed for a crime he didn't commit. Let's look at that video and then let's continue this conversation.
He was only 14 when America executed him for a crime he did. In 1944, George Skinny Jr. was accused of killing two white girls, Betty, 11, and Mary, 7. Their bodies were found near his home in South Carolina. Without evidence or witnesses, police arrested George while he was playing outside. He was kept in jail for 81 days alone, without seeing his parents or a lawyer. He was interrogated without any adult press. Police claimed he confessed, but there was no written record, no witness, and no proof of it. All 12 jurors were white. Trial lasted only 2 hours. The verdict came 10 minutes later. His parents weren't allowed inside the court and were forced to leave town right after, until the day of his execution. George held a Bible in his hands, claiming his innocence. He was too small for the electric chair, so guards placed that same Bible under him to make him fit. He was electrocuted with 5,180 volts. 70 years later, in 2014, a South Carolina judge cleared his name. The murder weapon weighed 19 kilograms. Impossible for a 14-year-old boy to lift. They took his life, but history gave him back his truth.
A 14-year-old boy who was executed for the murder of two young white girls whom they were murdered in his neighborhood or his area where he lived, but there was no evidence. They contrived him to admit to the crimes, but or at least they said that. His parents were never allowed to see him, so they never saw their son alive again. They executed him. They had him sit on the Bible so he could reach up high enough to have electricity put through his body until dead. Exonerated years later. This boy, I don't know, every boy does or girl does some things wrong, but he didn't do what they say they did. But this is what this country has always been about. This country is about hate and violence. This country is about racism. There's no freedom or justice. We're going to get to that in a few minutes too in another video. There's no freedom or justice in this country. It's a disgrace because of people blaming black people. Now, this goes back to the Central Park Five, which we dealt with past few months, and they were wrongfully accused of raping a woman and went into prison. They were exonerated by another prisoner who was going to be in there for the rest of his life, so he had nothing to lose, confessed to the crime. The DNA all matched him, and so they were freed, and they got millions of dollars. Investigator who was part of it, she made money off some books. So she refused to acknowledge the new evidence. She just said, well, we knew there was a sixth person. She didn't care about it. What they did was the easiest thing they could. Why not blame some black kids? Why not? They coerced them into confessing. They scared them to death. You can't treat children like that. Children can be twisted around to say anything because they're afraid of what's going to happen. They try to make sense of it all. And they think if you convince them, they'd be all right if they just say this, that, or the other. But that's, again, what this country does. We don't have a real judicial system. We have one that's so corrupted by racism and hate and evil people that how can we really know when justice is served? We need a criminal justice system, but we don't need one also that seeks to murder people. We need one that actually has a prison system that works, and ours doesn't. Ours is about torture. Ours is actually about slavery. And we'll get to that, not today, but we're going to get to that as well. This 14-year-old boy, life was taken. His parents lost their 14-year-old son because racist, lazy-minded people didn't want to do investigations, didn't want to look at the evidence. They saw an opportunity to eliminate another black child. That's what this country has been about. Is this all the atrocities that happened? And let's go back to some further atrocities that happened during slavery. Because these Caucasian people, and I'm Caucasian, were evil, completely and totally evil. Let's look at another video. I'm not saying all white people are evil, but I'm saying there's a whole lot of people who have chosen to do evil, and others who just because they don't want to be bothered, they support the evil. They don't really know much, but they don't investigate anything either. So they're a big cause of why this continues in this country. Let's look at this video and we'll talk some more.
3 of the most cruel acts inflicted on enslaved black people, and the last one will absolutely break your heart. For 3, skinned for boots. There are records of enslaved men whose skin was used to make items like boots, not rumors, documented. Their humanity stripped, turned into trophies, and it was spoken about with pride. 2, hair for furniture. Some black women were forcibly shaved, not just to shame them, but because their hair was used as stuffing for chairs and cushions. They sat on our stolen beauty. Here's the part that's hard to swallow. These weren't just punishments. They were public displays meant to break spirits. Families were forced to watch, children made to cry out. This wasn't discipline, it was domination. 1, boiled in sugar. On some sugar plantations, the worst punishment? Being thrown into boiling sugar. It was slow, painful, deliberate, and they called it sweet justice. That's the history they hide. If they only taught us about cotton, remember the boots, the chairs, the sugar. Comment pure evil if these truths deserve to be known. Follow for more untaught truths.
Cutting off a man's skin to make boots. That's what they did. Cutting off a woman's hair to stuff furniture. Boiling a man in sugar. And this was done also so other people could watch and see what could happen to them. Can you imagine with a man being held down, I don't know if he was still living or not, and them cutting the skin off his body? I hope he was already dead. I mean, I don't hope for anybody to die, but I hope that they didn't do it while he was still alive. But knowing the way this country's evil and racism is, I don't doubt that they could sit there and cut away the skin of a man and let people watch that. It is possible they didn't want to make damage to skin with him moving around to mess up their boots. This is disgusting. But we cannot change this country until we face the facts of just how despicable and evil these people have been. We will never be able to correct this until we deal with it. We claimed that we were civilized people. We called the Native Americans savages. Who was the savages? We have lied about history in this country. People who look like me have lied about history, have twisted it around for their own greed and power. What level of depravity does it take in order to torture people like this? What kind of mind is this? Nothing but pure evil. And that is what the basis of this country has been established on and is still being built on. Are there good people, good Caucasian people in this country? Yes. Are there bad black people in this country? Of course. Because all people have good and bad in them. But the problem is that Caucasians, with their society as a whole, has been used to degrade, dehumanize, to lie about history, to take away the building blocks of civilizations, and then they claim that they were civilized. Let's look at another video.
Mr. Carmichael, if you had the chance to stand up in front of the white community and say anything you desired, say to him, "Understand me, white man," what would you say?
I would say, understand yourself, white man, that the white man's burden should not have been preached in Africa, but it should have been preached among you, that you need now to civilize yourself. You have moved to destroy and disrupt. You have taken people away. You have broken down their systems, and you have called all that civilization. And we who have suffered at this are now saying to you, you are the killers of the dreams. You are the savages. Yes, it is you who have always been uncivilized. Civilize yourself.
White man, civilize yourself. Great statement. Great response. Because we have committed so many atrocities in this country. Slave owners would brutalize their slaves. They would torture them, literally torture them and brutalize them. And yet, we called ourselves civilized. Slave owners would own human beings whom they assaulted in a particular way. I can't say it on YouTube so easily, but they slept with their female slaves, so they produced children. They also committed the same acts against male slaves right in front of other slaves in order to dehumanize them and demasculate them. We have cut off limbs. We've set people on fire as Caucasians in this country. We have chopped off genitalia, whatever else, to humiliate. We have, after lynching a person, we have taken away pieces of bone and other body parts that survived the burning in order to have a souvenir. That's what the history of this country is. This is what history of Caucasians have been in this country. Not every single Caucasian, no. And there are good Caucasians who choose to learn about history. I'm trying to do that. Others have learned, and are still learning, and they continue to talk about these things. Why? Because they're important. Because enough is enough. That no human being needs to be treated that way, and no human being needs to treat others that way. And just because you're a Caucasian doesn't mean you have to be that way. We don't have to be superior. Well, we are not superior, but we have to act that way. In order to be superior, we have to dehumanize and degrade other people. We don't need to do that. That's not what God intended us to be, but he knew too many would be. We are all part of God's family, and until we start acting like that, we're in trouble. And brothers and sisters, my white colleagues, you will not see the face of God in heaven if you continue to be a vicious, racist person. And even if you're a person who, well, I just don't want to bother with it, it doesn't bother me. Matthew 25 talks about whatever you've done to Jesus, you've also done to me. Or whatever Jesus was saying, whatever you've done to me, you've also done to the least of these. In other words, if you don't care about people and don't take time to care about people, And when you don't want to be bothered about racism and other things happening in this country, you just want to kind of go off and live by yourself, that qualifies as you. You won't see the face of God. Also, even if you're African American and you just don't want to bother with things, well, we were meant to be bothered as Christians because we're meant to stand for what's right. If you don't stand up for something, you'll fall. You will not see the face of God. Christianity, God's kingdom, is about doing right by other people, sharing God's love for other people. And sometimes it's hard. We can't see the face of God unless we become like Jesus, and that's caring for the people. Standing up for justice, standing up for the things that are wrong, talking about these things. We talk about them so we can open our eyes and also not repeat them and not let them go on. We have one more video. We're going to show a particular person, Tim Wise, who talks about the facts. We need to humble ourselves as Americans, and we need to stop thinking that we're just all that, and quit living on the lies of what America was founded upon, because it wasn't founded upon what we think it was founded upon or what we continue to broadcast.
See, black folks know why they're here. Native peoples know why they're here and how they got here. A lot of Asian folk know, particularly if they're Chinese American, they know they got here because their ancestors were brought over to work on the railroads by the railroad barons who didn't care if thousands of them died laying track 19, 20 hours a day. But for those of us who are from Europe, we have this fiction that we've told, and we believe it, even though there's no truth to it. You know what the fiction is? It's two parts. Number one, we say things like, with regard to Mexicans coming over the border, with regard to immigrants coming over, but only that border. That's the only one we care about, right? The southern border. I find that interesting. We're not flipping out about Canada, right? We don't have any of the Minutemen or the anti-immigrant groups sitting off the coast of Nova Scotia with a gun and a scope trying to pick off the sneaky Canadians that are trying to sneak in here for our superior healthcare system, which after all would be a pretty stupid thing to do. But in any event, we only care about that one border, forgetting for a minute that that border was created at the end of a war that was started on false pretense by this country, after which we jacked half of their country. And you weren't taught that in school either, because our history books aren't interested in telling the truth. They tell this very patriotic history that has no relationship to the fact. So that border is artificial. Mexican folk who are coming here, documented or not, let's be clear, are coming home. Their families were here before our families were here in almost every instance. But we forget that, and then we say things like, well, I don't mind them coming. I just want them to come legally like my people did. The hell does that even mean? Come legally? There was no law to break when our people came. The fact that we didn't break a law that didn't even exist, you don't get cookies for that. You don't get like a pat on the back and a gold star because your great, great, great whatever was law abiding when there was no law that he could have violated, even if he wanted to. But we've told this lie that we came for these upstanding principles. So we'll say things like, well, you know, our people came for liberty and freedom, democracy. These people are just coming for stuff. They're just coming for jobs. They're just coming for health care. They're just coming for stuff. We came for high-minded principle, right? Because we believe that. What kind of third-grade version of American history is that, right? Like when Donald Trump says, well, Mexico's not sending their best. What the hell, you think Europe sent their best? Europe? No, our people were the losers of Europe. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, our people were the losers of Europe. The winners didn't get on the boat. You understand what I'm saying? The winners didn't leave. Why the hell would you leave if you were winning? Only the losers left because they had no choice. They were dying. They were starving. They couldn't support their families. A lot of them were convicts who were sold into indentured servitude to work for rich European people. They were barely above the level of a slave we didn't believe in liberty and freedom. And we know that because once we got to the colonies, we set up the opposite of liberty.
We came to this country, and guess what? The Europeans that came there, my ancestors, were all the poor white people in Europe, the people who may have been criminalized, whether they were guilty or not, powerless, and they came to this country to escape all that because the European elite were not treating us right. And so what did we do? We came here and we treated others as bad and actually worse. So where was the justice and the freedom? It wasn't here. It was all a lie. So we didn't raise ourselves up from anything. We dug ourselves deeper into the pit, and we built a country that was not something better than where we came from. We built a country that was based on, well, we don't have a king or queen. Well, okay. But there were all kinds of prominent people who acted like kings and queens. So we didn't have someone with a crown on their head. We still built a system that has so many built-in things that cause problems, and yet we want to sit here and say we were all that. The founding fathers were racist. The founding fathers were slave owners. They didn't build a country that was based on justice and freedom for all. They didn't build a country where everybody was created equal. When they said all men are created equal, who do they mean? All white men. You don't think they meant the slaves, do you? Who they said were 3/5 of a person. You don't think they meant the Native Americans who they massacred. What about the Mexicans who took their land away from them just like we took it away from Native Americans? Really? No. You know what? It's good to be angry about this, but how do we use our anger? Our anger needs to stand up for justice. Our anger needs to stand up for what's right. Our anger should draw us together, whether you're black, white, Native American, whatever else. And remember, we are only one race. I don't care how many times they say it, how many forms they have on it. What race are you? You're human. That's what you are. We are 99.9% identical. We're not the white race, the black race, the Asian race. None of that. We are one race, the human race. And you need to start saying that more and more because it's a lie meant to divide you. We need to get together with our brothers and sisters who look different than us and to embrace them as part of who we are. And for all us white people who came along later, who descended from people who were darker skinned than us, we need to go home. We need to be with the people we came from. And we need to stop acting like we are so special. There is only 15 to 18% Caucasians in the entire world. You think that everybody else came from us? When we don't want the world to believe anyone was black, or maybe the Cushites were black, but we don't want to admit anything else. We have twisted these lies so much, it's unbelievable. What will you do in order to make a difference? What will you say in order to change things? Where will you go? Please share these videos. I may not present them perfectly, but I have some things to say because I want to speak up for what's right. I can't live as a person and not speak up what's right. Share these videos. Share any video from anybody who talks about these things. Let's not let these things lie. Let's be open and honest, and let's build a country that really matters. And let's build churches that are really for God and not pretending to be for God. Until the next time on American Christian or Christian American.